Hi, everybody again. Nice to see everybody. I'm not going to take up time saying hello again. Just happy to be here. I'm going to jump right into it, move swiftly through some slides and a couple of videos so that I don't take up a whole lot of time. I'm going to share my screen.
I'll give you a 10-minute warning. How's that? I'll give you a 10-minute warning.
Yeah. Oh, how much time do I have?
Well, we're a little over, but how about 10 minutes?
Yeah, 10 minutes.
Something
Okay,
like
great.
That?
Yeah, so perfect. Appreciate it. I'm going to share my screen. Please bear with the craziness of my desktop until we can get the slideshow up. All right, wonderful. Hi, everybody. We are Families for Justice as Healing. We started Families for Justice as Healing inside of the Federal Women's Prison in Danbury, Connecticut in 2010 as incarcerated women. And when I left that prison, I'm a former trial lawyer, criminal defense, and real estate conveyance attorney who was sentenced to serve a 2-year federal prison sentence for wire fraud in 2010. It was an incredibly traumatic experience and period of my life. And when we were in that prison as incarcerated women, it was during 2010, during the time that Michelle Alexander's book, The New Jim Crow, had been published, during the time that the Media and Center for Media and Democracy and Democracy Now! Had exposed the American Legislative Exchange Commission, ALEC, and the nefarious things that they did in passing legislation in states across the country that were literally the architects of mass incarceration. And so we were hearing all of this as women who were incarcerated in this federal prison, almost 2,000 of us total. And the thing was, we heard nothing about women. We also didn't hear any voices of people who are actually directly affected. There were a lot of lawyers and researchers and nonprofits that were speaking about the need to end what we referred to then as mass incarceration. But we didn't hear any voices of directly affected people, formerly incarcerated and formerly incarcerated people and their loved ones. We also heard nothing. You would think at that time that women weren't even in prison, and we were becoming the fastest growing incarceration population in the country. Families for Justice Healing, as a result, was started in the federal prison in Danbury, Connecticut. I was tasked, I was in prison, I had to endure and figure out how to navigate 24 months. I was in prison with women who were there for 24 years. Who had already been there, like the matriarch of our organization, Phyllis Hardy. She had already been in prison for 22 years. We fought to get her out. But I was sent out because I was a lawyer, because I had certain other privileges, because I was able to use my voice and to be heard. I was given the task of building out this organization and continuing the work as the women slowly, who were serving 10, 15, 17, 24, and life with no parole for drug convictions, were continuing their sentences. And so I did. Families for Justice Healing, this is a more recent picture, is an organization that is led by formerly and currently incarcerated women. Everything we do includes our women inside in both state and federal prisons and often county jails. We are also an organizational member of what I went on to Families for Justice as Healing was the seeds of work that led to, in 2016, the start of the National Council for Incarcerated and Formerly Incarcerated Women and Girls. We lead the campaign.
No longer will we rely on somebody else telling our story.
There's Cheryl. We lead the campaign to end incarceration of women and girls in this country. We mean it. Here's a little bit of the voices of the sisters who are part of this national campaign. Some of the Massachusetts women are here as well.
We will tell our own.
In recent years, the number of incarcerated women has been growing at an alarming rate.
Women are the fastest growing segment of the prison population. I was one of those women.
I was one of them.
And I was one of them.
Do you know that the United States is responsible for 30% of the world's female prisoner population? despite only having 5% of the world's population.
The number of incarcerated women have increased over 700%.
Between 1980 and 2014, I was one of them.
I was one of them.
I was one of them. Nearly 3/4 of incarcerated women have children under the age of 18.
Stripping society of its mothers.
The mission of the National Council for Incarcerated and Formerly Incarcerated Women and Girls is to end the incarceration of women and girls.
We are strengthening communities and helping keep all families together.
Together, we are creating a space for women's voices to be heard.
Together, we can build momentum to free her.
Free her. Free her. Free her.
Free her.
Free her.
Free her.
Free her.
Free her.
Free her.
Hashtag free her.
So that's a little bit, we always like to introduce people to the larger coalition and movement that we're a part of. Families for Justice is Healing is considered the mother lode of all of this work. It started the work in 2010 and has led to an amazing national network, thousands of women deep who are directly affected, either having been incarcerated, formerly incarcerated, or the loved ones of people inside. Families for Justice is Healing is also the facilitator of the statewide campaign here in Massachusetts to end the incarceration of women and girls. We have one of the lowest incarceration populations in the country here in Massachusetts. We have about 135 women currently in our state prison. It is absolutely ridiculous that we are continuing to incarcerate women. We work at FJAH as well as the National Council through 3 pillars. We work through policy. These are abolitionist policies that, when passed, will significantly decarcerate women and girls and everyone else. We work through the pillar of hyperlocal organizing and a radical reimagination of vision of safety that we refer to as reimagining communities. And we work through state and national campaigns. Again, we lead the Massachusetts statewide campaign to end incarceration of women and girls. We are part of and represent Massachusetts in the national campaign. And we are leading the Clemency Quilt Tour and closing women's prisons. Our hyperlocal work, again, is under a rubric of a project called Reimagining Communities and what different looks like. And it includes creating alternatives to incarceration, policing, incarceration, and prosecutions that include local, hyperlocal, boots on the ground, organizing of very small sections of neighborhoods that sit within the most incarcerated corridors of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. I happen to live in one right now. Our office, FJAH's office, sits in the corridor, the most incarcerated corridor in the Commonwealth, which is from Nubian Square, which was formerly known as Dudley Square, in Roxbury, up through the Blue Hill Avenue corridor. We are the most incarcerated corridor in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And so what different looks like in a radical reimagination includes for us participatory defense, participatory budgeting, transformative justice, people assemblies process, deliberation project, a basic income guarantee, hydroponic farms, voter registration, cooperative businesses, and alternatives to calling the police. These are all components of reimagining communities. We also are doing and fighting against a new women's prison that a design team of architects at FJAH, which is an architectural firm, is moving ahead with the Commonwealth and the governor to be tasked with designing a new women's prison here in Massachusetts. We are vehemently opposed to this. This shall not happen. It starts at a price tag of $50 million. And this is a project that is requiring bond revenue, meaning our money, taxpayer money, to build a new women's prison starting at the tune of $50 million. And that's just shovel in the ground. It's going to require millions of more dollars to finish the build and to operate this prison. And you also have to understand that those of us who are formerly incarcerated women, particularly from Black, brown, and poorer communities around the Commonwealth, know that our children are the ones who will be slated for filling those prison bunks for a new women's prison. It's unnecessary. we are poised uniquely in Massachusetts to end incarceration of women and girls. Why would we
You
ever
have 1 minute left.
Building a new women's prison? Okay, I'm not going to show this video then. I'm going to move forward. I'm not going to show you that. Some of what different looks like is Kimya's house. We need 100 Kimya's houses. We could build so many more. This is Stacy Borden's house under New Beginnings. We need hydroponic farms. We've just purchased the first hydroponic farm that's going into our community in Roxbury. We're the first in the country. FJAH is organization to begin a guaranteed income project that's led by us, not by a city or state government, that provides $500 a month to the most vulnerable formerly incarcerated women in our community. And we're learning from our sisters and brothers in Oakland about building out an independent crisis response team. Why is it important? I'll close here. We know that a prison will never be a place for a woman or girl to heal and advance her life. We have one of the lowest incarceration populations of women in the country. We have a decrease of 21%, but spending on incarceration in the Commonwealth has increased by 25%. And we already spend $1.4 billion annually operating jails and prisons, plus plans to spend an additional $520 million of capital funds on major jail prison construction projects over the next 10 years. We, again, have better alternatives. And so our asks, we are building the Massachusetts statewide campaign to end incarceration of women and girls. We're currently building a volunteer base to help in the campaign. Our ask is for anybody interested, even to get information to share with others, to let us know. We're asking organizations to endorse our campaign to end the incarceration of women and girls. And also we are asking organizations and individuals to endorse the jail prison moratorium bill. We have one federal ask. That ask is to send a message. We have women who live in Massachusetts. Please don't forget, women in federal prisons all come from states. We have women from our state of Massachusetts in federal prisons. We have been leading the campaign around the country to reform clemency on the federal level, and we have our 100 Women, 100-Day campaign. We are asking President Biden to commute the sentences of 100 women. We've been in contact, had a meeting with the White House on Friday. Most who are very sick. One of our 100 women, Martha Evanoff, died 3 weeks ago while we were fighting for her release for the 100-day campaign. There's Llewellyn, who is our one of our dear members and staff at FJAH and the National Council. We'll drop some links into the chat when we get out of the share screen. I don't have time to show you this video. It's a beautiful video though, but we will make sure, I'm so sorry I don't have time to show it, but I will make sure that you guys get it so you can see it, so you can really understand why this is important. I thank you for this time. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and available for any questions. That was really rapid fire. So I hope that
that was really rapid fire. Wow. And so much really critical information. I'm actually overwhelmed right now because maybe others are ahead of me, but you know, I know things are bad, but it's really important to hear it and to see you. And to, I mean, I'm thinking of things, ways that, you know, people can connect, and we definitely want to, certainly a number of us want to like connect and also get the information out. Thanks so much also to Llewellyn for putting that information in the chat. Oh, and I should also say that the committee's been discussing getting these recorded videos up on YouTube. They are presently there, but they're, you know, private. So depending on how people feel, we can make the clips public. And yeah, thanks so much for the work. Are there any questions, just and other ideas that people might have of ways that, specific ways that some of us might be able to engage, maybe with the legislature or even at the federal level? Yeah, I hear you, Michael. Great, very powerful work.
Mary Ellen, I just wanted to mention we're working under the leadership of FJAH around trying to get the state to pick up the cost for phone calls into jails and prisons, and FJAH's doing a great job on that. We're doing our share down here in Bristol County to support, because it's just unconscionable that poor families have to pay essentially this big giant corporate structure, profit-making structure for phone calls. So.
And I just thank you for that so much. I just dropped in the chat a no cost calls video that can help you to understand that issue better. And then I'm also going to put the last video that I was hoping I could share. If you click on it after the meeting, you can watch them if you choose to. If you just click on the links, they'll be in your search bar. But I'm dropping just two of those videos. But thank you very much. We are on the verge. I spoke to Rep. China, Tyler, yesterday. We think we're on the verge of getting no cost calls passed.
That's encouraging. Russell, did you have a question? I heard something, maybe not.
Yes,
okay,
I have to unmute Mary Ellen.
Okay.
Andrea, you mentioned that there was a federal bill that you were talking about. Can you put the information about that in the chat? Progressive Democrats of America does a lot of work with the Progressive Caucus in DC and the legislature. So that's something we could definitely have our national team take a look at and see if we can get some movement on it federally.
Yes, it's a push for reform, actually. It's not so much a bill. We're working directly with the White House clemency team. We did this very effectively under the Obama administration and really advanced a lot of clemency, pushed out 50 women serving life sentences under Obama. We refused to work with the Trump administration. We came back into the clemency fight with the Biden administration. And so we are working with them because it needs to come out of, clemency needs to come out of the office of the pardon attorney, both state and federal. We cannot rely upon people who are tasked with sentencing people and prosecuting people to determine that they may have made a mistake or overdid it and release people. And so that's the support that we need. The link to the video that I dropped in our clemency will give you a lot of information about our 100-day campaign. And we need people to support that, to send emails to the White House and to President Biden, encouraging him to move these 100 women out first. They are very sick. Again, we've lost one in the last 2 weeks. They are on our 100 women list. They're either very sick or they've been in prison for decades, like Michelle West, who you will hear her daughter in the video that I put in the chat.
Okay, thank you.
And we can talk about other things. We do a lot of federal advocacy work, a lot. So we're here.
Terrific, thanks.
Thank you.
You're muted, Mary Ellen.
You're muted.
Sorry about that. Too many devices. Yes, Michael Kane has a question.
Oh, yeah, I put it in chat. A great presentation, Andrew, really powerful. The tainted lab tests that are being used as a basis, Rollins is using as a basis to potentially dismiss, as I understand it, thousands of convictions. Will that help with the incarcerated women? Is there any, will that reduce that population if she used?
Thank you, Michael, for that question. We've been in that fight for a long time. It's something that we have to continue to pay attention to because these tainted drug tests are continuing to happen. We just focus on that real, the disaster. We had 2 out of the Massachusetts drug labs, but that's another process that really needs to be reformed. But most of the people who are endured those convictions are out of custody right now or out of prison. But the problem is that some people were deported as a result of those things. A lot of fallout happened that destroyed families and disrupted communities. And so we need to just make sure that all of the things that the Suffolk County District Attorney's Office is doing actually happen, and that we move forward with keeping the pressure on, just as the public saying, we're still paying attention to this and we need these things to happen, as well as wrongful convictions and convictions of people that just need a second chance to come out. We need that kind of pressure to continue. But, Rachel Rollins is a much more progressive district attorney than we've ever had in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. We support that, and we have been working. We have a hub group of directly affected women who meet with Rachel every month. She's made a point of making that happen to make things better. And so that is progress that we have never seen in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts in regard to the Suffolk County District Attorney's Office. So we're at least working together now.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Sorry about my technical issues. I hope you can hear me now. So yeah, seriously, that was a really amazing presentation. And I apologize for the pressing time. I'm very conscious of wanting to have some time after this section, you know, for us to hear from the other groups as well. So Andrea, but thank you so much. I do see, okay, we will have one more question. Thank you, Miriam. Vaughn, I didn't see that you had a question. Do you want to unmute yourself and shoot a question out? And then we'll go to the second part.
I've put the question out there. It's been dealt with. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Vaughn. Thanks, everybody.
Mary
so, yeah.
Mary Ellen, just did you notice Carolyn Bays has a question which I think is pretty important in terms of making the argument about no more prison building, what we would say.
I did. Oh, yes, that actually is it is very important. I did not see that. So, yes, please follow up on that, because that particular issue, the prison building, is something we can get our hands on right here in the state. Please go ahead, Caroline.
Okay. Yeah. So I have two fairly progressive legislators, and I actually sent them to go to the legislative briefing on the moratorium bill, and I've been trying. I actually did convince my state rep to support the moratorium on prison building bill, but I'm still getting pushback from several legislators who are usually very progressive, who just are like, well, what's the alternative? And even though I try to articulate the alternative of individual housing and therapy and treatment, and what I believe, it's been very difficult for me to get them. I really could use some stories. I could use a one-pager. So I don't know if there's a one-pager out there, but I could use some help in trying to convince my, or not even just mine, but other state legislators, why this is so important and why it's so unnecessary to have people in prison. They just don't get vision.
I just want to emphasize too, and this is an immediate response that you can give to legislators who are pushing back. The bill is a moratorium bill, right? It's a moratorium. We're asking for 5 years, not the end of time. Give us 5 years to actually build out the alternatives that we know will work and that we have created. So we have to remind these legislators who go right to that as an excuse to not support this, that we are asking to pause for 5 years to think about, reallocate funding, do other things that at the end of these 5 years, we won't be so concerned about what alternatives mean. We need the time. FJAH needs the time, because we are at the forefront of this fight, to just pause where we're not expending all of our resources and capacity to stop a new women's prison that we don't need to be built. We don't need this, and it's just an ask for a pause. And we can give you all those other things, Caroline, but we want people to be armed as they meet with their legislators with that response. This is just a pause.
That's crazy.
Thank you.
That's just crazy. Thank you so much. Yeah, and I think what we're witnessing here is exactly what we're trying to do with this monthly meeting, is to get people hearing what we're all doing, and we need help. You know, people need help, and this is exactly the kind of connection and relationship building that we need to proceed on. And again, we can put these clips on later, and all of the videos links will be sent around in emails afterwards.